Everything is grace. It's one of Therese's famous sayings. Everything is grace. And it really sums up her life, her spirituality, and her relationship with God. Everything is grace. Her little way teaches us to do the ordinary things in life with extraordinary love. So to take the simple, ordinary, everyday things of life, but do them, live them out with extraordinary love. A smile, a note of encouragement, a phone call, suffering in silence, offering a positive word, a simple, unnoticed task to brighten someone's life. There are so many examples of these ordinary things, these ordinary deeds, but done with love. These are the examples of her spirituality and life. To take something very simple, and yet through the power of love, to transform it into something great. Because it doesn't take much to make a difference in someone's life. Tomorrow is the death anniversary of Father Anthony, a former parish priest here at St. Therese's. And I've often told the story of how I met him when I first came to Sri Lanka. In those days, I would visit Santa Maria regularly for masses and preaching. And Anthony's body was riddled with Parkinson's disease. He was basically confined to bed. But whenever I visited Santa Maria, one of the great joys was to go and just sit with him in his room. And sometimes we'd pray the prayer of the church together. He could no longer hold his book because of the tremors. But he could remember those prayers that he had prayed for decades. And we would sit and pray those prayers together. And then one day when I was leaving Santa Maria, I went to say goodbye to him. And he simply said to me, "Thank you for being with me. Otherwise, I'd be here shaking alone. Thank you for being with me. Otherwise, I'd be here shaking alone." It doesn't take much to make a difference. It doesn't take much to do something very ordinary and make it extraordinary through our love. So those smallest actions, those smallest deeds done with love, are more important than the great deeds that people do for their own glory or for their own gratification or simply out of some obedience. Saint Therese believed and she taught that Jesus is everywhere and that He's the power and the source for the love and the goodness that operate within us. And I think if we truly believed that, then the way we live our Christian and Catholic life would be very different. If we truly and really believed that Jesus is everywhere and that He is the power and the source for the love and the goodness within us, then we'd live very different lives. Such is the power and presence of grace. Everything is grace. And the life of Saint Therese was hidden, not out front, not look at me, not telling everybody what I've done. No. It was a hidden life. For many people, even the sisters in her own convent, she just seemed like this average young woman, some ordinary person to whom they didn't attach any level of importance. She was simply there. Yet her greatness is demonstrated in the constancy, in the endurance of her love for others in the most simple ways. That's what made her great. I don't know about Sri Lanka, but in Australia, perhaps 2 or 3 times a year, people are chosen to be awarded national recognition medals. And when you look down the list, mostly they're sportsmen and women, famous politicians, professors from universities, big businessmen and women. So many of them, the big famous people. And yet what is wonderful is when you come right down the list and you see the ordinary mums and dads, grandmothers and grandfathers, men and women who have simply given their lives to something extraordinary. Maybe they've served the poor in St. Vincent de Paul for 40 years. Perhaps they've worked at Meals on Wheels for 25 years. Perhaps they've served in the school canteen for all of their adult life. Perhaps they work with children with disabilities, helping them to ride horses. Ordinary, simple things, which nobody sees, often hidden, and yet the greatness is those simple Australians who, through those simple, ordinary actions, have demonstrated that constancy of love and goodness for others. Even in prayer, Saint Therese teaches simplicity, talking to God or to Jesus in direct, personal, and heartfelt ways. She couldn't stand long, verbose prayers. And yet we spend so much of our time rattling off long, long prayers which just become words, rattled ad nauseum, with little meaning. She taught simplicity in prayer. My God, love me. My God, have mercy on me. What more is there to say? And again, if we as Catholics and Christians believed that, then we'd live very differently, and our faith lives would look very different to how we do them now. Everything is grace. She prayed from the heart, speaking honestly and openly, like a child does, trustingly to a parent. Just says what needs to be said. The message of Saint Therese, our parish patron, is clear. God loves. God loves. And we're called to respond in simple, innocent ways, with a relationship of love and trust and confidence, by doing simple things for others, doing them well, and doing them with love.